Hello and welcome to the Two Ball Brothers and a Microphone podcast. This is Danny Ryan and I am here with Tommy Ryan. How are you doing, Tommy?
Doing great. Getting a slow start, but...
a slow start, yeah.
Those mornings it feels like you're a half step behind. Or catch up.
I have plenty of those, which means you're probably two times as far ahead of as I am. That's okay. I'm on my second cup of coffee, so life is good. I wanted to have a follow-up to our conversation about Iron Mountain Organics and the logo development. This sort of has to do with as people create their own intranets, digital workplaces, it's a good idea to brand it. It's a great idea to have a logo, something to represent what you're trying to do. And for us internally at Three Will, it's the cafe. And for you, as you look at Iron Mountain Organics, we had the conversation last time as far as, what are you trying to do? What's the purpose behind it? And how does that get incorporated into a logo? And I thought it was a great conversation about that. If you haven't listened to that, I'll definitely put a link to that as I post this up on the blog, and definitely go take a listen to that. But we're looking at the second version. So the creative process, you usually have an initial version of some ideas that are out there, and then you start to narrow it down. And for us, I think we really liked a version that had the mountains in the background, sort of the rolling. It looks maybe more like rolling hills where Iron Mountain is. And then we had Craig. Craig's the name of the designer. Craig ended up taking that and then doing some follow-up versions to that. And so this conversation just wanted to take a look at that, and I'll post this up as well on the blog post, sort of the next revised versions of the logo. And so what was your initial impressions as you got this?
My initial impressions of the logo when I saw it, it was simple. Mm-hmm. And I think as I look back to the previous version, there were a lot of examples of directions we could take the logo. And now we're trying to narrow that down and try to get some concepts where he's varying a few things, but not going into new directions necessarily to complicate the process. So we can start narrowing that cone down to what is that, final step, maybe in this third round, to get the final logo. As I looked at them, I was drawn to 2 out of the 3. Okay. And it was like the first and the third one.
And so that would be option 5A, and then this one?
Yes.
Option 5C.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of on 2 ends of the spectrum. One is very, very simple. Mm-hmm. It's in one color, and it has more of an outline of the mountain. Mm-hmm. It's something that I was attracted to its simplicity. It's something that could stamp well. So it was simple, and maybe too simple. And the one at the top, that first example in the second round, the colors. I like the colors, and I like that. There's more to it. It's richer because it has the 3 different colors in there. Actually, 4 different colors, and there's something about it that seems more like outdoorsy, Patagonia type feel to it, that gives it some character, a little bit more character than the real simple example that is in one color.
Yeah, my favorite was this first one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I like the colors are earthy, it's the sky tone plus the the green and the red. I think the red complements it very well. Mm-hmm. And I like the embellishments, just the simple "Know Thy Food" with the
lines.
The lines to the side balances it out. I like it.
Yeah, I was attracted to that one at first, and as I, looked at the rest, I kind of narrowed out the second and the fourth one. And then he went through and gave 2 examples of, doing the initials and making the M look more like a mountain. And in his comments to sending this revision, he was saying, he didn't really like it as a compliment to any of the logos, that it really seemed to be off-brand in a sense. But he tried something horizontal, and it didn't work for him. And this was the best he could do going in that direction. And maybe there's some other ideas that we can tinker with to try to have that complementary.
For some reason it was a little like if we went with the first one and then one of these, I like the colors are obviously the same. It just like using a different font and a very distinguishly different font.
Yes,
sort of threw me off a little bit.
I think that threw me off too.
And of course I look off to the side because you do that with ours, and I see ho 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 like Santa Claus.
Right.
So I'm like, is this a themed Christmas theme here? But I almost, when I looked at it, I thought almost just using the same type, and with that first one where you just had IMO all the same size, and maybe it being something with the blue above and the same colors and the green, and just doing something very simple with that, and maybe having it a circular one, something circular, like I think some of the first ones were circular, just something a circular brand that was and more of it I'm thinking of like again, like the whole brand idea. It's something that can be, it would be like in two, you'd have, because a brand is only going to do one color, and so you can use that, and so just something with IMO is all I'm thinking, and using the same, maybe just sticking with the same font as he has here, and it just being very strong with that.
Right.
And maybe it could be just one, it has to be with the brand one color, but just using IMO and just using that same font. And maybe just having a circular around it to encapsulate it and just keeping it simple.
Right. I might mock a few things and send them.
I think that's probably good. It's just to write some things on paper, take some some shots of it and share it with them. And and it doesn't have to have the Know Thy Food on the brand either. You leave that out, but just something that has the IMO. And it probably, it would be, for that one, it wouldn't be, it would be for things that were around the farm. And so it wouldn't have to have the whole Iron Mountain. It would just be a complement to this.
Right. Yeah, and as I'm thinking about this process and how it applies to people branding their intranet, I think of when you look at it, what do you take away? What are the feelings or the aspects of it? Yeah. Simplicity is a key thing. The colors I think are representative of iron and organic in nature.
Very back to nature. Natural tones, very earthy tones.
Right. And then when you're looking at your intranet, you're looking at what do we want this thing to represent, and to try to pull out those feelings, from that emblem, that logo that you put on your intranet.
And for us, maybe just tying this all back, is like with the cafe, our thought there was it was a place where ideas are shared. What's a cafe? Number one, it's a place where you feel comfortable. It's a place where there's not a whole lot of formality. It's a place of sharing ideas. It's a place of passion. It's a place, when you go to the cafe and you're, I'm passionate about coffee, you're passionate about tea, and, enjoying some of the finer things in life. It's about sort of being introspective and looking at sort of like what's going on in your life. It's about catching up. Right. It's about relationships. And so I think the idea of a cafe for us was very important. And then, what we ended up doing with the logo was I kept it very simple, where it's, the obvious coffee cup embellishment for me is taking our crest and turning it into more of like a coffee cup, and it doesn't have to be over the board, but just sort of tying it back to our original brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think with this, I think so the things that I think influence this are simplicity. I think some of the brands I think the Patagonia brand, if I had to sort of take some that I think are go into this, and also I would say the organic. I think some of the things maybe where we were talking earlier about, I guess if something's branded or as being organic.
Right.
Using those two logos, I think, to influence and sort of to remind you, I think is a good thing. It has to stand on its own, and it has to have its own personality, but for it to, I think it's fine for it to remind you of other brands that you want to be associated with, or that have the same type of value system that you have. It's okay. It's like in a family of logos.
Right.
It's, you can tell it stands on its own, but it belongs to that family. I think is important. It just doesn't. It's not like coming out and standing on its own, and it doesn't remind you of anything at all. But yeah, this is great stuff. I think it's gonna. Number one, I think that's gonna look great on a shirt.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
I think that would look just awesome on a shirt, and I could also see the idea of putting that maybe on the back of the shirt, and then maybe the brand, the IMO, as being like a crest on the front.
Right.
I could see that going, or just that being on the back. But I think that's cool. I think it would be, you could do a lot of things with that. And then just I like having a crest. So I would suggest that we not just drop that idea of not having it, because this is it's horizontal. It's sort of like it would go on things like good things like shirts. But as you know, I sort of, when people ask for things, there's certain places where, like on our Twitter account or things like that, where I just use our crest.
Right.
And I recommend, I think it's been helpful for us just to have something that stands alone by itself. And this is a bit much for it to have, for it to be your only option is not, I think you also want to have a simplified version of this that you can use in different places. I think that's been beneficial to us.
Okay, makes sense.
So, and I wouldn't make it that complicated. I mean, I would stick with the same fonts. We're not going to be doing that much with colors. I might, just to have some variety, maybe put it into a circle and see what that looks like. I think that sort of goes back to the organic stuff that we were talking about, maybe, or look at other logos that are circular.
Right.
And I think it'd be great. I think you're there. It's
cool.
Also don't overthink these things.
Yeah.
Because
you can create something. Fairly simple. That's similar. That's going down another track, and I think you have to take a track and go down and see it to completion.
And this will last it'll last for years, and then over time you might try something new.
Right.
So we've had 2 logos over the course of, probably more than that. Remember the original Venn diagram?
Venn diagram, yeah.
I'm an idiot.
We did progress.
That Venn diagram, I think the only problem with that is it looked like the radioactive symbol.
Yes.
Which people don't like looking at that for some reason. But fortunately, that didn't take off, and I don't have too many things around the office here that's the Venn diagram. But so we're in our 3rd iteration, and so this is also something that over time I think it's very strong and will last many years. There's no reason to change off of it.
Yeah.
And now that you've got this, it's about taking this and then building the community out of this, and building the. You also want to have ways that people can take this, and like I said with the shirts, and said with just different things, and I could see the smaller brand maybe being like on a key set or something that reminds people of this, and I could also see it on, because you're, the idea that we were talking about before with like recipes, and I could see this maybe being on something that was a kitchen utensil, something that you're using for cooking.
Right.
or even taking, maybe if you had a small version of the brand that you could put into like a piece of wood or something like that.
Yeah.
That was, I could see it on like a trivet or something like that. Something that is used in cooking and preparing what you got from Iron Mountain Foods.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I could see definitely something coming out of that. But first, I would say T-shirts, and then get the brand, and then see where you want to go with it from there, and see what other things are out there where you would want to put this. And again, it's people wanting to, the idea behind this is know thy food, and getting back to understanding where things come from. And sign me up.
Yeah. Cool.
I have to share this as a last story because I heard it yesterday, but Connor's back in school. And for those of you who don't know, Connor's my youngest child, and he goes to a local school here, and they were going through extracurricular activities, and there's lots of things that you could sign up for. And he wanted to do the seed garden.
He did.
Yes.
Awesome.
So he is going, and it's more than just a seed. It's actually they have like a little mini farm that he's going to be involved in doing. And out of all the things that were out there, all the sports and whatnot, he wanted to do the seed garden. So I think you had a very positive influence on him. So
very cool.
He would love to have an Iron Mountain Organic shirt
all right.
to wear to school. So sign him up for that.
All right,
as well.
we will.
Awesome. And I'm the key with this is creating a movement, is creating something that people can join. And this is definitely something I think people get excited about, and it's real, and what you put in your mouth has an impact on your life.
It does. Yeah.
And so I think this is something that can have a real impact on you, and just knowing your background and your story of what you went through with cancer, and about how you can make choices. I mean, this is back to the whole 3-wheel idea, is that you can choose what you want to do. Mm-hmm. You can choose what you decide to eat. And this is, I think, a part, it's just the next evolution of what you're doing in your life. And I just love it.
Yeah. Cool. I'm excited.
Right. But you can't leave quite yet. We still have a lot to do here at 3-wheel.
I've got plenty of years here.
We still have a lot to do here at 3-wheel. Don't leave me quite yet.
I'm just planting seeds right now.
We're just planting seeds. I've got my own seeds that I'm planting, but we're still a little while off. But I love it. I mean, I think this is exactly what you should do, is with your second career, is to get it going and get it up and running. And it's nothing. It's just you can take steps in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it comes
and
it
it's
evolves
been fun.
naturally.
This first year doing this has been bringing vegetables to clients.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
great.
Amazing the experience that creates.
Yeah.
That bond that you have by sharing food. Food that's kind of that's hand grown. Mm-hmm. And where some people, they say, I'm not into vegetables, but my daughter is gardening and was struggling with getting some things to go, and she'd love to have some vegetables. And then one person said, "Well, I just switched to being on no meat, no alcohol, and mainly vegetables from Sunday to Friday." And basically they're just trying to have a healthier life. They like meat, they like alcohol, but they know it's good for them to put more vegetables on their plate.
They're drunk from Friday morning till Saturday.
They are.
They're eating meat like a mad. But yeah, it's a step in the right direction for them.
Yeah. So it's great to be a part of people's lives outside of work, where you can make that and make that a part of the experience that you have with your clients, that it's more than just the work that you're doing, that you bring in interests that are outside of that, and you're bringing the whole person into the conversation. And I've grown with that over the years, because coming from chemical engineering and very engineering mentality, I thought it was all about the work. It was all about the quality and what you actually did. And the relationship was not even secondary. It was, it wasn't in the thought. It was more like, well, if I do good work, that's what counts.
Yeah.
And then you just find that the relationship is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of that relationship is the quality of what you do and
Yep.
caring about what you do. But it's caring about the person first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having this ability to give people food and kind of talk to the important things of life in terms of health. I mean,
Right.
health is such a critical part of having a full life. And to bring that into the conversation by just bringing a bag of vegetables and handing them to them, saying, would you like these, creates a different conversation, a different environment. And so I'm looking forward to, over the years, learning how to do this better and sharing, with people as I go along the way. That's very rewarding.
I love the green beans and the Thai peppers.
Got more of those.
Big fan of those. So.
Good.
Well, thank you. This has been great, and good job, Craig. I appreciate the hard work you're putting into this, and it's really coming together. And again, I'm looking forward to the shirt here. It's going to look really wonderful, and this is great stuff. And I hope everybody's enjoyed doing this. Just thinking about how do you apply your corporate brand over to your digital workplace or intranet, and really thinking about this. And I think that some of the takeaways from this as well is you're trying to create a movement inside your organization. Yes. And what does that look like? And what does it stand for? And what are you trying to convey as part of what you're doing? And I think each organization, right now, just I'll say this and we'll put a button on this, but Pete and I are working on our Three Wheels digital workplace. And we started the whole thing off with, what are our values? What is it that we care about? And I want that to sort of encompass what we're doing and how we are as an organization. There's so many times in which I come into these situations with clients, and it's just sort of like, I want what everybody else wants, whatever that is. And it's like, I can understand that, and there's some basics that need to happen there. But you also want to look at where you are as an organization. What's unique about your organization? Who are you? What do you value? What's different? And incorporate that into what you're doing.
Yeah, and we're trying so hard to help companies with that, where we're approaching it based on the business cases or the use cases that drive that intranet, and try to get away from the features. Don't jump into the features right away. Think about what impact you want to make with this intranet, and what's really core and important to your organization. And then we can start getting into the technology piece. And but that's a lot of hard work goes into that. You really need to think hard about what are the key tenets of being successful with your intranet.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.